You know who you are?
Steeven is my name.
Even Steeven.
Will you say something, Steeven?
Steeven Orhouse Media.
You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 2, War in San Monte. Hello and welcome to an all-new episode of the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Hello.
You were waving.
I was pointing over this shoulder, over this shoulder.
Ed, this is audio.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about talking about this issue. I don't know about you.
I'm still kind of buzzing after the first one. That was so much fun to read.
The first one was fun. I think in my opinion, they get more fun after that.
Oh yeah. They're starting to get their legs under them, and yeah.
There's some crazy stuff that happens in this one, and we'll talk about it when it comes up. So of course, in this episode, we're talking about Action Comics, or the Superman tale from Action Comics number 2. This is written by Jerry Siegel with art by Joe Shuster. It's entitled The War in San Monte. Action Comics number 2 was, of course, published by DC Comics, and it has a cover date of July 1938. Ed, why don't you tell us what happened in this issue?
All right. Courtesy of dc.fandom.com, which I am assuming the link will be in the show notes.
It will.
All right. We are told that Alex Greer tells Superman that his boss, who's trying to start a war, is Emil Norval, the munitions magnate. Superman pays a visit to Norval's Lexington Park estate. After dispensing with Norval's guards, Superman tells Norval that he has to join him on a ship headed for San Monte or suffer the consequences. Also on the boat are Lois Lane and mysterious traveler Lola Cortez. Good name, Lola.
Yes.
When they arrive in San Monte, Superman forces Norval to enlist in the local army. Norval's plan to enlist and then escape later is foiled when Superman joins the army as well. They get sent to the front lines, where Superman sneaks into the enemy camp and takes a picture that he sends back to the newspaper. Meanwhile, Lola Cortez plants a document that she stole from the military in Lois Lane's room. It's discovered and Lane is placed on trial. That's using the word loosely, by the way.
Yes.
She's found guilty and sentenced to death by firing squad. However, Superman saves her in the nick of time. He also stops a man from torturing prisoners before he leaves Lois, telling her to return to America. When he returns to the army camp, he finds it being attacked by an enemy aircraft. He jumps onto the plane, causing it to crash. Norval pleads with Superman to return him to America. He promises never to manufacture munitions again, but before they leave, Superman kidnaps the leader of the two armies and tells them to fight each other. They discover that neither army knows why they're fighting, and so they make peace. Wow. And as funny as that may sound, that is exactly what happened in the book.
It's exactly what happened in the book. And this issue, I mean, I was sitting on the couch the other night reading this, and I was laughing out loud at some of this stuff. Okay, first off, we talked about the opening little dialogue box there that in the last episode, how immediately upon reading those, we get this like old timey radio guy. Yes. And so I want to read this first box. So this is, of course, continuing from the previous story where Superman had grabbed this dude, Greer, and jumped to a building, but missed, and they're falling, and that was the cliffhanger from the previous issue. So it says, as they topple like a plummet, did I say that right?
Yes.
As they topple like a plummet to the street below, 80 stories distant, Greer shrieks insanely the entire length of the building. Love it. So, okay. I also real quick, I want to point out one of these narration box that I distinctly remember reading, and for some reason just quite enjoying. And it was the moment where Superman goes to Greer's office, and Greer had warned his guards basically, and the guards leap out to shoot him. And the box says, instantly, several panels about the room slide aside and outstep a number of armed guards. Next moment, Superman is the center of a deafening machine gun barrage. I really enjoyed that because, first of all, just looking at the picture, yeah, you can see that he's being shot at by machine guns. Without that box, however, you're like, where did these guys come from? Because one moment he's just talking to Greer, and the next moment he's surrounded by guys with machine guns.
Yep.
Really good stuff. I also, my favorite moments in this book or in this issue, this story, him forcing the guy to join the army. That was funny. He gets thrown overboard by Greer's thugs. And instead of climbing back onto the ship, he just swims past it. And he swims to land.
He meets the ship at its destination.
Right. I also oh my gosh, the moment where he finds the guy torturing a prisoner and
where did that come from? What?
The guy goes, let me go. What are you going to do? Give you the fate you deserve, you torturing devil. And then he just throws him to his death, basically. Because he just picks him up and throws him one-handed off into the distance. And it says, for an instant, Superman poises the torturer overhead, then tosses him away as though he were a javelin. The torturer vanishes from view behind a grove of distant trees with a pitiful wail.
He's a flesh javelin.
I was not expecting that from freaking Superman. Man. I mean, I know that these characters killed, right? That's always the big argument when we see Batman in a movie kill somebody. Batman doesn't kill. Well, he killed in the Golden Age, and but he doesn't now. Blah blah blah. But so that was fun. Him taking out the airplane in the sky was fun, and then he just grabs the two leaders of the two armies and says, fight it out, both of you. And they're like, we don't even know why we're fighting in the first place. And didn't stop your war. Okay. And that's it.
Yeah.
Again, a very short story. I didn't count how many pages.
12 and 2/3, just short of 13 pages.
12 and 2. Yeah. Yeah. So far of these 4 issues that I've read, the last page has that little thing at the bottom, and this is
there'll be a panel or a third of a page.
Yeah. And I think this one is I think something trying to get, I don't know if it's like a letter writing campaign to get Superman into the newspapers, but that
I think that's in this story and the next story also.
Yeah.
All American Youth.
This was a lot of fun. What'd you think about it?
Yes, a lot of fun. Not quite as disjointed as the first story, although internally for the story itself, it was disjointed. The framework was there. It was one frame, and it jumped in that frame, whereas for that first one, you had like 6 or 7 frames that were in it.
Yeah.
So they're cohesing, is that a word? I don't know, but they're cohesing the story a little bit more, but you can tell that still there is something going on because in the story he goes from scene to scene to scene, and there's no movement between. Yeah.
They there comes a point in comics where you got a caption box. Anytime the scene changed, they had to tell you that we're going from Wayne Manor to the Hall of Justice.
Right.
Eventually they got rid of that because writers thought people are smart enough to realize that we're no longer in the Batcave. We don't have to tell them that. Some writers still use it, some don't. It's kind of a thing. This, it doesn't use it at all. It's just, I mean, there's some narration boxes that kind of fill you in on what's going on and where you might be. But it's again, just breakneck speed. The whole point of these stories is action, action, action. That's why it's called Action Comics.
Yeah.
So we're not getting really, Clark Kent's personal life. We haven't seen
character development.
Exactly. With the exception of a couple of scenes, in these first 2 stories in the Daily Star, and of course, Clark going on a date with Lois. Mm-hmm. That's really the extent of any type of Clark story at all.
Yeah.
And I think the way that this story flows compared to the first issue does, I think, nail home the fact that first story was cobbled together from newspaper strips that they had originally tried to get published in newspapers. I also thought the art went up a notch in this issue. I think he's obviously progressing. There are still, of course, moments where, you're not quite sure if you're just looking at faces, you don't know who's who, and the S on his shield is very ambiguous. Really, it's just a yellow shield with a red S.
I do like his outfit, though. There's just something about the red and blue, which is, the largest portion of the American flag, of course. And the yellow chevron, I guess you would call it on his chest. I like it. I probably really can't explain why, but I just like his outfit in these first couple issues.
Yeah. There's a couple of panels where they may have forgotten to draw his cape.
It's a little, shall we say, sketchy. No pun intended.
Yeah, that's all right. It didn't take me out of the story.
Nope. And it adds to, for me, the charm of this is what people had to read back, what is it, Steven, almost 85 years ago?
Yeah.
Right? 90 would be 28. So, yeah, it's 85, little 86, something like that. No, not 86. I don't know. Math. I was a biology major.
84, maybe.
Yeah, something. Yeah, that sounds right. So I would imagine that most of the books, which there's not a plethora of comics in 1938 to choose from, so right. They're like this. It's a very quick, fast. Get it down just so people know what you're trying to do. It's not the John Byrne, Jim Lee, Whilce Portacio, hyper, even JRJR, art. It's very loose or very open or, to get it in, get it done. These people had to collect 6, 7, 8 stories worth of art, compile them in a book, get it off to the printer, so it just, I feel reading these books, reading these stories, and I say this having the benefit of having read already all of Dr. Fate's Golden Age stories. So, but it just seemed like a less serious endeavor that these people were doing. Not in any way to diminish what was going on in 1938. It's between world wars. Crap in Europe is really starting to come down. And these men, most of these comic book creators are either of Jewish background or are Jewish themselves. So they're very tuned to what their parents or their grandparents over in Europe are starting to have to go through everywhere. So it's not, they didn't have it easy. And they certainly didn't have it easy over here. And we know all of those, nowadays we're getting more and more of those stories of just what it was like in this country not being a white male for everyone. So, I don't know. It just seems the tone of these books is just lighter. I don't know than a lot of what I read today.
Yeah, it's very light. And it's because it's an anthology. They have to tell these little adventure stories quickly. The purpose here is not to create any kind of soap opera here. It's just, Superman's going to go out and right some wrongs. And that's right. That's if anything, they, Siegel and Schuster are telling lesson or stories about, a man with superpowers who is seeing stuff in this world that he feels is wrong, and he does something about it. He doesn't just stand on the sidelines. He sees a bully. He's gonna intervene. And
there is no ambiguity,
right,
over who is the good guy, or more importantly, who is the bad guy.
Yep.
The bad guy is the bad guy. You cannot question that. So that also I kind of like, because that's, I read comic books to escape.
Yeah.
And my preferred escapism is superheroes. And in my superhero world, the good guy is good and the bad guy is bad. And the good guy defeats the bad guy. And it's very plain, it's just that complicated. Good guy beats bad guy. That's, and that's the way these golden age, when comic books first started, that's the way they were written.
Yep.
You had your good guy and you could look and you could either tell by the way they were drawn, or you could certainly tell by the way they spoke or what they did who the bad guy was. So my dude is going to do something to these dudes. What's going to happen?
Yep.
So
yeah, and I enjoy that too. I have nothing against writers using comic books to tell a bit of social commentary. I honestly don't think I would be the person I am today if it weren't for comics. I think I've learned many lessons about equality and tolerance and whatnot because of comics. But sometimes you just want to see Superman take a torturer and throw him beyond the distant trees.
The flesh javelin Olympics with Superman in the lead.
Exactly. And they do this whole almost a side story with Lois Lane and the other woman whose name I now can't remember.
Lola.
And that
Lola Cortez.
That really doesn't resolve itself at all. It's like Lola's there just to put Lois in danger so that Superman can save her.
Right, that's it. Yeah.
Otherwise, they don't prove to anybody that Lois was innocent the whole time. It's just like, nah, you're not going to shoot her. I'm just going to take her away. And done.
Yeah, right.
That's it.
Yeah, I know Lois didn't do this. I can stop it. And so.
Love it. By the way, sometimes you may see people walk behind me.
That's cool.
We live in a house that I say this and people laugh. And once they think about it, they go, that's a good point. We live in a house that is it's over 120 years old.
Okay.
This, my great grandmother ran the town switchboard from this house. It was originally owned by the phone company.
Cool.
She moved in and ran the switchboard. The switchboard is actually down. It's a really small town. We were the territorial capital of Kansas. But we have a tiny museum and her switchboard is in the museum. But I joke all the time that this house was built before hallways were invented. Because there's not one hallway in this entire house.
You just go from room to room.
Exactly. If you want to get to to my bedroom, my wife and I's bedroom, we got to walk through the kitchen, through the bathroom, into the bedroom. And it's not a small house. It's not a big house, but basically, I'm literally sitting at the dining room table. So yeah, I have kids. I have two girls in the other room, and if they want to get into the kitchen, they got to walk through this room.
Go. So fair enough. Yeah. I've got we live here with a couple cats, and so it's nothing for one to jump up in my face.
I've seen it on Boom Addiction. I've seen the cat.
Yeah, it hasn't happened tonight, but yeah,
we have two cats, and this is the same workstation. I work from home. And one of them is often spends the day laying up on the table with me, and I have to try to arrange things so I can type on my keyboard and whatnot. But I've yet to have one interrupt a live stream.
Oh, okay. Well, that's good.
I'd like to show my cats off, but they don't.
No doubt. They respect. It's cute. Yeah,
they respect the live stream. They're
okay. All right.
Anything else?
Couple things?
Yeah, go for it.
We get Lane as Lois's last name in this story.
Really? We didn't get that in the first one?
No, it was just Lois.
I did not notice that. Wow, okay. That's interesting.
It's just Lois. So issue 2 was the first Lois Lane that we get. The newspaper changed from the Daily Star to the Cleveland Evening News.
Crazy.
In this issue.
I didn't notice that either.
I don't know.
Wow.
And George Starr is the editor.
Okay.
So we get the editor's name this issue.
Wow,
George Starr.
I missed all of that. Sometimes I just get so wrapped up in the adventure.
And this was the first time that someone outside our cozy little group referred to this dude as Superman. Oh. It's the first time somebody called him Superman out loud.
Interesting. All right.
So those are some firsts here as we're moving on into the present of our Superman.
Good deal. Yeah, I missed that all. Good for pointing that stuff out. I did make note that, Clark Kent is given the assignment to cover this war in San Monte in the previous story, which of course he completely ignores and goes to Washington, D.C. instead.
Right. Yeah.
It's like he had some kind of sixth sense. Like, there's something I have to learn in D.C. before I go to this war.
Somebody called the Superman hotline, and he took that message and decided it was more important than going to San Monte. Right. So yeah.
Well, and then he in this story he gets on the boat to go to San Monte, and Lois is there, and she basically tells him that the editor wanted her to come along as well to cover the war, to give her feminine perspective.
Right.
But I thought it was really interesting that even though I'm sure for them at the time, I'm sure the main purpose of that is just so Lois can get in trouble and Superman can rescue her. Right. But still, we're seeing a female reporter that works for a big newspaper and is not just doing kitchen do's and don'ts, what the housewife should, she's covered. Sure, they want the feminine perspective, but still, she's covering a war.
Yeah, she's going to the front line, man.
Exactly. Yeah. I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything else in this issue that we feel we need to cover?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
I will wrap it up then. I want to thank everyone for listening to this episode of the Superman Super Show. If you want to drop us a line, you can do that at the supermansupershow@gmail.com. And if you want to help the show in any way, you can rate us on Apple Podcasts and just generally tell all your friends about us. Just get out there, spread the word. Thunderbird. That's something I used to say on an old podcast.
Thunderbird.
Spread the word, Thunderbird. All right. So until next week, I'm Steven saying goodbye. Goodbye. And here's Ed saying goodbye.
Ciao.
Ooh. Little international flavor there. We want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show @gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can help to boost our presence online by leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. The Superman Super Show is a presentation of Steven or Else Media. For more nerdy content just like this, check out stevenorelse.com or just use the link in your show notes. Superman is a registered trademark of DC Comics and was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
Superman's bad. I mean, he was bad.
88% of the work week is spent communicating, so it's important your team does it well. Enter Grammarly. Grammarly's AI helps teams communicate clearly the first time. It shows you how to make words resonate with your audience, helps with brainstorming, and lets you instantly create and revise drafts in just one click. Join over 70,000 teams and 30 million people who use Grammarly to move work forward. Go to Grammarly.com/enterprise to learn more. Grammarly, enterprise-ready AI.